let's work on that, and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on. So I would like to emphasize this aspect and would like to see a ceasefire from the next meeting, which should be a trilateral meeting wherever it takes place.
Well, we're going to let the president go over and talk to the president.
Mr. President, dear Donald, many thanks for having us today. I think this is extremely helpful that we are meeting and hearing that the two of you are having such a good meeting today here in Washington. The next steps ahead are the more complicated ones now. The path is open. You opened it last Friday. But now the way is open for complicated negotiations. And to be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire, the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that, and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on. So I would like to emphasize this aspect and would like to see a ceasefire from the next meeting, which should be a trilateral meeting.
Thank you for being so very nice.
Thank you, Donald.
All the time.
But he loves it. He loves it. For he does it always. I never want to speak with my friends.
He's a very good player, golfer, you know.
Yeah, I know.
He went to college.
But he says. Thank you very much, Donald, Mr. President, for hosting us today in this important meeting. And I think it is an important day, a new phase, after 3 years and a half that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a willing for dialogue. So something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you. Thanks also to the stalling in the battlefield, which was achieved with the bravery of Ukrainians and with the unity that we all provided to Ukraine. And the reason why I mention it is that we also have to remind that if we want to reach peace and if we want to guarantee justice, we have to do it united. So that's why it's a very good day, the one we are in. You can obviously count on Italy as it was from the beginning. We are on the side of Ukraine, and we do absolutely support your efforts towards peace.
Volodymyr Zelensky has spoken since his meeting with US President and EU leaders at the White House. Now, he's confirmed there is no date set for Ukraine's leader to meet with his Russian counterpart, but says he is prepared for a trilateral meeting.
We just confirmed after this productive meeting with the President and then with all our colleagues, with the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of formats, but on the level of leaders.
Well, joining me now is former White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. Good morning to you. You just heard from President Zelensky there talking about these trilateral talks. What do you make of that?
That there's a good bit of progress. Look, I know there's a lot of folks saying that, folks who don't like Donald Trump saying that Alaska was a disaster, people who like Donald Trump saying Alaska was the first road to a Nobel Peace Prize. I think those are two extremes. I think if you look down the middle, what you'll realize is that things are trending in the right direction, Holly. They are closer to a deal to end the war in Ukraine today than they were 4 days ago. That doesn't mean they're close to a deal. I think there's a lot of work to be done. Keep in mind, I'm talking to some friends of mine here tonight in Washington, D.C., and one of the words that was thrown around on a regular basis today was a security guarantee. I've talked to 5 different people. I got 6 different possible definitions of what a security guarantee looks like, which means there's a lot of work to be done. But generally speaking, it seems like things are moving in the right direction. I would not be surprised if there was some meeting between Zelensky, Putin, and maybe Trump before the end of this week and certainly before the end of next.
Well, wow. If that is the case, then it is significant progress. I mean, the optics of this meeting looked very different to last time, a lot friendlier tone, I have to say. And with these trilateral talks, just spell it out for us, Mick. What will that actually look like? What's the next steps? As you mentioned, security guarantees, there's a lot of ideas being floated around at the moment. But what are some of those, I guess, suggestions that you're hearing from your sources there?
Yeah, the general outline, I think, is sort of something everybody sort of tacitly recognizes. The general outline is that Ukraine gives up some territory. I know that Zelensky has said it violates the Constitution and so forth, but I don't think there's anybody who's in this discussion seriously who's thinking that Crimea would go back to Ukraine as part of a deal. That's just not going to happen. Questions about Donbass and Donetsk, et cetera, eastern Ukraine, those will continue. But generally speaking, there'll be some territory that is lost by Ukraine. Generally speaking, by the same token, there'll be some type of security guarantee, a closer relationship between Ukraine and the West. That's writ large. Those sort of the macro positions. Where the details end up is obviously going to be the difference between getting a deal and not getting a deal. Again, all I say is that they're talking, and there was never going to be a deal without talking. It doesn't mean there's going to be one. It just means there's a chance now when there might not have been a week ago.
You talk about land, giving over land there, but is it a peace deal giving Russia what they want?
Yeah, to a certain extent, there's no question. But keep in mind, when Russia invaded Crimea, which I think may have been 10 years ago now, I lose track. It was before the first Trump administration. Europe didn't go to war. America didn't go to war. I don't even think Ukraine went to war over Crimea. There's just a unique piece of history there and a connection between the Crimean Peninsula and the Russian native homeland. So I hear what people are saying. Oh, my goodness, we don't want to reward the Russians for this type of behavior. I get it, but this is the real world. And the real world is that short of World War III, I do not see Russia giving up Crimea. And I honestly do not see the Europeans or the Americans saying, you know what, without Crimea going back to Ukraine, there's no deal. I think tacitly, behind the scenes, people have acknowledged that Crimea will now be part of Russia. Whether it's not, it is recognized as open for obviously debate. But there, I think, has to be some type of land transfer here in order to get a peace deal.